So again, welcome to Idaho. We're so glad to have you here. Our executive director, Jerry Cassidy, and the rest of the board of directors are in a board meeting right now, so they couldn't be here right now, but they will be down a little bit later on in the day. Wanted to introduce the rest of our staff. I'm Martha Patterson, and I am the director of operations. I have been with the company now for about 14 years, a little over 14 years. So when I first started, I helped open the office. Before that, we were working in people's homes and whoever was the president and things like that. So it was the first time we had office hours, and we have really grown since then. We have 3 new departments, and we have directors of those departments. Hannah Ostrovsky is our director of breed improvement. You'll be hearing from her later. She'll be able to tell you more about herself. Same thing with Gracie Smith. Gracie Smith is our director of communications. So all those emails and advertising and everything that goes out, that's Gracie. And she has really been hitting it hard with the social media and getting the word out for Wagyu. Jeanette Gottsweller is one of our newest additions. She is the coordinator of our Authentic Wagyu program. So she's the expert, and she brings many, many years of experience to the table here to Wagyu that she's learned in other breeds. So she really has moved that program forward, brought it to completion, and she's there for your questions at any time. So she is available. Now, she doesn't work in our office, so sometimes we have to take a message and get her to call you back, but she is a wealth of information and will help you join that Authentic Wagyu program. Our office staff of absolutely dynamic ladies are there to help you every day, any day that you call. Lauren Mary, right here beside me, who's going to speak next and do some details about digital beef. She is our herd book administrator, so she maintains the integrity of that herd book and makes sure that everything is going in the correct direction. Shyla Kenyon, who you saw at the front desk, helped to check you in. She is our DNA services coordinator, so everything DNA, she is coordinating and supervising. Emily Johnson is our youngest member. She's still in college, and we're really enjoying having her. She is member services specialist. She's probably the first one that's going to answer the phone. So you probably have talked to Emily. She also handles our new memberships. And Heather Cervenka, is our registrar. So she is handling the registrations of your final registrations of your animals and transfers and so on with that. So that's the group. And Emily and Heather may come to some of our evening events. Otherwise, they're holding down the fort for all the folks that couldn't make it here today. One of the things that I wanted to talk about today was we have some new rules out there, and we've tried to communicate with you through the emails and so on, but everybody's busy. And one of those first rules that we're really excited about is our new first owner rule. Now, this did come about 6 to 8 months ago. But with this first owner rule, it really benefits when you purchase an animal that hasn't been registered yet. So the first owner definition now is the first owner of the animal that is applying for registration with the AWA, with us, American Wagyu Association. So if that animal has not been recorded, you can record that animal that you've purchased, or if maybe you have an animal that hasn't been registered yet, but this is really more for animals that you buy. If that animal has not been registered with us before, you can record it. You may need a little help in digital beef. There's a few rules in digital beef that are assigned automatically to the recording. So you may need to call the office, and we'll help you through if you get some error messages on those. Tattoos are a discussion we'll have with you, the names, information, maybe the previous owner, and if they've already been registered in another registry, that's just good information for us to know. And so it helps. Sometimes the animal's already been tattooed before you buy them, so that's where we need to kind of work around some of those nuances. And the ladies in the office can all help you with that. One of the other new rules that some of you have even been affected by this year is our new member voting rules. And last year on September 12th at the meeting that we had for our annual general meeting, the all of the members passed some new additional rules for voting. Now we all still, everybody who has their membership paid up and so on, you are all still very valuable members and conduct business just as you always have. But in order to cast a vote at these meetings and for the election of the directors, you do need to have a little bit more skin in the game is what they were calling it. So register at least one full-blood or purebred animal, or if you don't have anything to register that year, if you're buying other services like e-blasts or advertising or genetic testing for the animals that are coming up that aren't ready to register yet. All of that, if you spend over $200. Now your dues don't count, it's over and above the dues. So even registering for conference this year qualified some of our voters. So we're going to have our record date, which means our date upon which you have to meet the qualifications is going to be August 15th every year. So there will be August 15th to August 15th. So if you have spent some money coming to conference, but you didn't do it until the last minute, that will qualify you for next year. If anybody has any more questions on that, I'm happy to go over the rules and so on. The other thing that's very exciting is in the past, we have always allowed you to, if you needed to send DNA overseas, you've sold semen, embryos, other kinds of, well, usually people aren't selling a lot of animals to be flown over to Ireland, but usually there's genetics. And if you have those genetics overseas, they need the parentage markers. Well, in the past, we were only sending the STR markers, which is old school. But a lot of the labs overseas, that was the style that they needed. Nowadays, a lot of the labs have upgraded, and they're now using SNPs. So we needed to revise our rules for you guys to help promote your overseas sales. You now can have SNP parentage markers sent overseas. And we'll either send them to you and you can send them to the overseas agency, or we'll send them directly for you. Some of them require us to send them. There is a little bit of we're still sending genotypes, SNP genotypes to Australia, but that's the only country that we have an agreement to send genotypes. But the other countries really only need the parentage so that they can parent verify the offspring that come from the genetics that you sold. The other exciting thing that this is really fun because we haven't had a real discount in prices in a long time. Well, Neogen has restructured, I'm going to call it. I don't really know why they did this, but we are grateful they did. They've restructured their pricing, and a lot of the prices have dropped dramatically. Of our bundles, of our DNA testing, standalone testing, mostly the bundles, but we're a lot more competitive now. So we're really encouraging you to get on the website, take a look at that new price sheet, and come to the AWA, the American Wagyu Association, to do your testing. From there, if you need it sent to Australia or you need those markers sent to overseas, we are happy to do that. So we really, Lauren's going to elaborate more on some of that. She'll show you some of that pricing. Wanted to review just really quickly a little bit why we test. Now this writing's a little smaller, so now I need my glasses. Why do we test? It's mostly to add value to your animals. Keep that value to our herd book. We want to trace back to the original animals that came over from Japan. That's definitely a bragging point. Wagyu is very special. And when we're marketing our Wagyu, we definitely want to be able to draw on that. My animals are related to the Japanese imports. Even in your F1 market, that bull is bringing that value to your F1 calves. Breed improvement, improving breeding outcomes, EPDs, that kind of thing. So testing gives us more information to continue to improve over the generations. And of course, registering your animals with the association gives value. You have a certificate that shows what you've done, the registration, the testing, and all of the value that comes with that animal. With genetic testing, we don't just make up the rules as to what parent verifies and what doesn't, and how those markers look, and what the data information is that come out. There are two agencies, ISAG and ICAR. Those are agencies that get together, I want to say annually, probably more than that, and they set the standards for what those markers will be, what they look like, how many of them you need in order to parent verify, how many of them you need in order to qualify as a sample that is successful as opposed to a failed sample. The standards protect the American Wagyu Association. They're standards that are set up with international recognition, and it ensures usable data so that when we have those SNP markers and you're sending them over to Ireland or South Africa or wherever you're sending them to, that they recognize that data as being valid. It also gives very specific guidelines to, like I said, for us and for the labs to use for qualifications and exclusions. One of the questions that I continually get at the association is, what does this call rate mean? Sometimes when you're sending information over to another association, they may or may not have certain restrictions on call rate, but call rate also says whether or not your sample failed or whether it succeeded. Now the call rate is a little bit like your score on a test. If you had 100 questions and you got one wrong, you're at 99%. So your call rate would be 99%. So if we had 100 markers and we needed a call at each location, if you were missing a call, so the DNA didn't give you a call at that location, then it would be 99%. Now if you have 5 locations where the DNA didn't give us a call, now we're at 95. Now we're starting to be a little iffy, but it's still acceptable. If we get down around 90% and below, the lab is going to review that, they're going to look at it, but they're liable to call your sample failed. It did not give us enough of the DNA. It doesn't mean it didn't give us some, but once we get down to that level, that DNA can be not necessarily as accurate as it needs to be. So once we hit a certain level, the confidence in the accuracy of that DNA, it may give you false parentage and things like that. So they call it failed. We just need a new sample. For some reason, the sample just didn't produce the DNA that we expected it to. And ISAG, again, going back to ISAG, they're the ones that tell us what call rate is going to be successful. Now, I guess the slides are big enough for you guys to see. Here's an example of parent verification and exclusion. My top example, our little baby there, in the second one over, we're going to use that one. Our calf has an AA. The dam with the little blue check mark, she's got an AT. So when the baby has an AA, it needs to get an A from mom and an A from dad. Most of you know a lot of this basic stuff. So when we look at the mom, she's got an AT, so she's giving it an A. And then the sire also has an AT, so he's got an A to give. If you go down to where, on the second example, where I actually deliberately put in an incorrect parent, on the second one over, calf has an AA, mom has an AA, so mom gave it an A. Now we need another A from dad. Oh, we look at this sire, he's got a GG. Yeah, GG. And so that means he's not the sire, because I need a sire that's got an A in that location. He can have an AG, he can have an AA, an AT, but he needs to have an A to give that calf. So that's an exclusion. And this is what we see in our office when we put this is a website from the lab. So this data is coming out of the lab. We see it here, and if the wrong sire or dam is in there, we're going to get these red areas where there's DNA that the baby has that are not coming from one of the parents. Now, again, back to the ICAR and ISAG, that gives us the rules as to how many of those exclusions will work. If we have one exclusion, that's not a problem. If we have 2 exclusions, we'll take a look, we'll call you, does this sire make sense? Yes, I have semen in my tank, I know that's what I put in her. 2, we can approve that, especially if we have 200 markers. It kind of depends on how many markers we have. Most of the time today, you're getting at least 200 parentage markers. Sometimes you'll get 196, 198, sometimes we'll get 203, but most of the time. Now, these are older animals. They've only got you can see there's, the dam has 93 of her markers that compared, and the sire had either 90, 87. Now, we need to have a minimum, again, an ISAG regulation is we need to have a minimum of 85 markers. Okay, so we have to have at least 85 markers compared of these three, the calf, the dam, and the sire. So we need to have at least that many compared, because sometimes dam will be missing one over here, baby will be missing one over here, and sire will be missing one over here. So we don't have all three to compare. So we have to have at least 85 markers where all three of them have that. Again, called out by someone else. So when we see this exclusion, we're going, this is not the sire. But as you know, Lauren and Shyla's actually learning to do this too, is we can run a herd search. So we can search our entire database. If you request it from us, we can take that calf and we can put that dam in and we can go find me a sire. Or we can put that sire in and go find me a dam. And it will search our entire database, not just your herd. So that is something that we do. Back to collecting those samples, I'm just going to touch on this really quick. Collecting DNA, common causes for failure. A lot of times we don't really know why it happens. But these are some of the common reasons. Cross-contamination between samples and animals, and we're messing out there in the pasture. Tattoo ink. When we're doing the TSU punches in the ear, you need to stay away from that tattoo ink. It will contaminate the sample. Cleaning agents. Don't be scrubbing it down with cleaning wipes, because that cleaning wipe will contaminate the sample. Heat exposure, don't leave those samples on your dashboard. Think of them like CDs. They'll warp and be a problem. Too much heat. Now, they don't necessarily have to be refrigerated before you send them. There's a few examples. Meat, if you're turning in meat, to be sure that you got the right animal back from the butcher or whatever, those do need to be frozen and refrigerated and sent over. But normally, just care. Keep care. Insufficient sample, don't send us 3 hair follicles. That's not enough DNA. So we need quite a bit of DNA. And we have sheets, information sheets that we can send to you at any time. Are they on the website? And they're on the website too, that show you how to collect samples. With TSU tagging, it's really great. They can be done right when they're born. You're tagging them, you've got the calf, you're putting in the ear tag, take that TSU sample. It's very convenient. Need to be sure there's no blood in that tube. You also need to be sure that there's no tattoo ink in that tube. You need to be sure that there's enough liquid. Sometimes if there's hair in the top, the liquid will leak out. And then if that sample dries out, they can't use it. So I'm just going to touch really quick on this. I just want everybody to know that our registrations on any overseas animals follow the exact same rules that you do with your domestic animals. The parents are subject to registration with us. They're subject to DNA. Parent verification's required. Same in our rule book. DNA markers must be on file. And the price of registration is the same whether it's domestic or overseas. We're trying to treat everybody equally. The last thing that I want you all to take away from this, if you don't remember anything I've said today, is that you are our priority. In the office, I know the board, you're a priority with them. I can really mostly only speak for the office. We're here to help you. I want you to call us. Don't sit on there frustrated. There are some tutorials if you're working late at night and it's after office hours, or really early in the morning and we're on the West Coast here. There are some tutorials on the website, but don't be afraid to call us, please. You are our #1 priority, and we really, really want to be there to help you. Our ladies will go over how to put a calf in the digital beef system as many times as you need us to. So just call, please. Appreciate it. You are important to us. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn over the mic to Lauren now. She's going to go through some details, and we'll keep going. We can take questions maybe after Lauren's all done if there's some time, or you can always find us in the hallway. So thank you so much. Okay. I'm just going to unplug. I'm going to sit down here. In case you need anything.
Good morning, everybody. So as Martha had already said, my name is Lauren Mary, for those of you that have not met me before. I'm the herd book administrator, so I primarily work with the herd book searches. So if we are having trouble trying to find a parent for your animal, I'll do those data analysis processes for you to see if I can find one. I do a lot of troubleshooting with digital beef, so if you run into a problem and you're not sure how to quite solve it, and some of the other ladies are not sure how to solve it, if it's not one of our most frequently asked questions, they come to me. Before I get started, I did have one housekeeping thing for me. We do have one lakeside hotel key that got left at the registration desk, so if you're at that hotel and you're missing your key, Shyla has it up front. And for those of you that have not seen my presentation before in years past, what I like to do is I like to do the walkthroughs through some of the most frequently used processes in digital beef, because some of you, it's been a while since you've been in there. You're only in there once every 6 months when you start having calves on the ground, where you might need a refresher of the steps to how to get your calves in your system. And then some of you are also new who have never used digital beef before. So we're going to kind of go through a lot of the ones that we see, the ones that you guys will use most of the time. And I wanted to thank everybody who responded to the survey that was sent out last week. Thank you for that feedback. I've tried to incorporate some of those topics or the answers to some of the questions that we got. If I run out of time and I don't get to the subject that you requested, I do have a digital beef one-on-one session sign-up sheet at the registration desk. I will be having time slots available Friday afternoon and Saturday morning if you want to bring those questions to me, or if you want to sit down with me and do one-on-one working through your account in digital beef. If we don't get to you, or if you have any questions that come up after, I will be back in the office on Monday. Give me a call. So the first thing, again, some of you already know how to do some of these steps, so bear with me if this is just repeating information that you already know. But how to sign in to digital beef. There's 2 ways to get to digital beef. One would be to go to our main website, so wagyu.org. We do have a digital beef sign-in area in the upper right-hand corner. While we're also here, we do have static tutorials, and I'm not sure if we still have some videos. We're working on revamping them. But under Member Tools and Resources, we have the Resources and Education link here. And if you scroll down, we have, this is our, speaking of Martha's presentation, our sampling instructions are listed here. And then if we keep going down, digital beef user guides. Again, some of the most common processes are here. I do have some other ones available if you're needing something more specific, like if you're utilizing breeding inventories in digital beef, I can get those sent over to you. The other way to get into digital beef is to just type in the URL, which is wagyu.digitalbeef.com. When you get to the digital beef page, you do have your sign-in boxes on the upper left-hand corner. So you'll type in your member number and then your password in that lower box. When you first join the association, you should receive a welcome letter that will list your member number, and you will have a computer-generated password. That's the information that you're going to put in these boxes here. The information with the email is going to be just for the main AWA website only, not for digital beef. When you successfully sign in, you're going to be brought to your main general profile information page. It should have your member number, your account name. If you are not getting to this page, please give us a call at the office. We can see, do we have a typo in a password? Have you changed your password and we forgot to write it down? Let us know and we can get that reset for you. If you do not want to keep your computer-generated password, you can select this view button under member password once you sign in to change it to something different if you don't want that computer-generated one. So with this main profile page, this is going to be your main hub that you'll use in digital beef. You'll see your contact information, so just make sure what you have for your address, your phone, and your contacts are all correct. Are there any authorized agents that you need to add? If so, reach out to the office. We can get you that updated paperwork to fill out. You're also going to be able to view your herd. When you sign in, it should automatically select herd for you. Beneath that, you have all these filters to select who you want to view. Do you want to view all of your active animals, males, females, registered, unregistered? Do you just want to view your breeding bulls, breeding females, your yearlings, weaned animals, We do also have legacy on the far right. Those are your inactive animals, animals that are deceased, that you've updated their statuses, or animals that you have sold. While we're on this page, I do want to bring attention to the account tab. This is new for this year. Earlier this spring, we changed our invoicing and payment processes, and it's a little bit more streamlined for you guys now. So you don't have to wait for us to import your invoices over, email them out, wait for your payments to come in, and then download the payments into Digital Beef. A lot of it is now more instantaneous when it's member requested work. So here you can see your total balance due on the right-hand side here when you sign in. If you want to pay the entire balance, whether it's multiple invoices, you just hit that pay balance link and it'll bring up a pop-up for you to fill out that payment information. If you click the account tab, you're going to view all of your open invoices here. If you have multiple ones, you can click to pay individual invoices. You can pay a custom amount to pay a portion of an invoice. Or if you ever need to come back here to find your receipts, or if you need invoices with line items for your records, if you click the Show Invoice History link that I already clicked, it should bring up all current and old invoices for you. There's a plus icon there that will give you more detail as to what that invoice entails. We have a work order number here, which is unique to that invoice. So if you want to find, hey, what is this invoice that I have sitting right here? You can find it in that list. Oh, that's my DNA supplies. If you guys are requesting DNA, if you lock your DNA requests, and we'll get to walking through that portion as well, but if you lock your DNA requests, if you click the register button on eligible animals, or if you submit a transfer application, you will immediately get that work order right there in that same session that you're logged in, so you can pay it at the same time. You, again, don't have to wait an extra day for us to import and email that out to you. The only exception to that rule would be things that staff need to create. So if you're requesting DNA supplies, if you're requesting herd book searches, we do make those invoices for you. We will contact you and let you know when those invoices are available, usually within 1 to a few business days. So it's pretty quick. And we do have 30 days to pay those open invoices. So we will go ahead and invoice you and process the requested work at that time, let you know when it's completed. But again, that payment would need to be remitted within 30 days upon creation of that invoice. So you have a new calf. What do you do? We recommend to record the birth data as soon as possible. So then that way you're not having to go find records from months and months ago. To record a new calf, there's this left-hand menu over here. If you ever need to go back to this main page, hit View under My Account. Beneath that, you have Herd Management. If you click the text here, it will expand. To record a new calf, we'll go down to Recording, and that will expand, and we'll select calves. If you have a new animal, if they happen to be 2 years of age, you'll still follow the same process. It is entering a new animal into the system, so they don't have to be calves to record them this way. When you click calves, it's going to ask you, how many animals are you entering? It defaults to 1, but you can change it to however many calves you have, and it will create your table when you hit continue. We'll go through this form, but once you record the birth information for your calf, whether you've obtained a sample at birth, just again with those TSU vials, Martha did mention you can collect them at birth. Do not sample wet calves because the fluids from dam may contaminate your sample. So just make sure that they're dried off. You can obtain a sample later and turn it in later, that's fine. If you need supplies for DNA, we have some here at the office. So you can call us or email us. We do have to send the blood cards and hair cards out in a quantity of 10. The TSUs come in a box of 10. And if you are going to be doing TSUs, there is an applicator that you will need if you don't have one already, and that's what you load the vial into to punch the ear to get that tissue sample sealed into that vial. Once you have your sample, you'll then submit a DNA order form telling us I want testing on this calf, this sample belongs to this calf, and I want this specific testing run on it. And then once your testing comes back, as long as that animal has fulfilled registration requirements, you will immediately have a register button appear in Digital Beef that you'll select to finalize registration. If you have animals that you're harvesting and you don't want to do a feeder registration, no further action is needed at that time. But if you have a breeding animal that you've registered and you later sell it, then you'll transfer that registration to that new owner. So that's kind of the outline of the order of things that you'll do. So going back to the birth recording, we've kind of rearranged it a little bit since last year, so some of you may have noticed that, to make it a little bit of an easier flow to follow. So the first couple columns, there's a pink header that goes over the first 6 columns. That's just dam information. So what is her registration number? That is a required field. If you have a commercial female who is the dam, like an Angus, we need to put her in as a commercial animal record to produce a base number to enter into that field. We cannot leave it blank. If you have questions on how to do that, we do have a how to record commercial animal tutorial on the website, or again, give us a call and we'll walk you through that. Temper is her temperament. So is she docile or is she very aggressive or somewhere in between? If you do not know, this field is optional, leave it blank. Next column would be utter suspension. So is she very pendulous, very tight, level, somewhere in between the two? Again, if you don't know, just leave it blank. And then we've got teat scores. So from very small to very large, somewhere in between. Again, if you don't know, leave it blank. So we're going to put in a commercial animal as our dam. It should pop up if you have tattoo information entered for that record. It should pop up there, so just double check that. Make sure that that tattoo that you put down, or that dam that you put down, the tattoo that comes up matches what's associated with that registered Wagyu animal, or matches with what you've put down for that ID information for that cow. And it will, this one tells me it's a mixed beef breed, not a Wagyu. We're going to scooch over to sire. Doesn't get a whole lot, so we just need to put in his registration number here. Again, once we put in the registration number, we just want to make sure that that tattoo is correct for that sire that you put down. This tells me this is a full-blood 100% Wagyu. This is going to be the start of the calf information, so anything that does not have a colored header above it is going to be for the calf. So when it talks about birth date, that is calf birth date, not parent. So with this example that we're going to do January 5th of 2024. Service type. That's going to be required. So is this a natural service? Is this a result of an AI, or is this a result of an ET, an embryo transfer? I'm going to pick AI for this one. Herd prefix, that should autofill for you based on what was set up when your account was first created upon you joining the association. On your application, we have you put down a couple options for herd letters in case some of them are already in use by other people. But this is going to be letters that are unique to your herd, unique to animals that you register in your account. The animals, per our rules, need to be tattooed or branded with your herd letters, 1 to 4 numbers, and then the year letter code. And that's going to be with the animal through its whole life. That's going to be what's on the actual registration certificate of the animal. So in our demo herd, we have AWA, and then tattoo. Again, 1 to 4 numbers. You get to pick the numbers as long as it doesn't conflict with an animal that you already have in your herd. It needs to be unique within your herd as well. The M here is the year letter code for 2024. We do have a legend on the left-hand side of Digital Beef that will tell you the current year's year letter code, and then a couple decades worth of year letter codes if you're recording an older animal, if you need to reference that. They are also posted on the Beef Improvement Federation website as well, which is what we follow. So tattoo would be required. Tag, optional. If it's the same as your tattoo, you can put the same. If you have something else on, as the hanging tag in the ear, you can put whatever you have in that animal's ear. Tags can fall out. They can get bleached by the sun. They can get lost. So that's why we rely on the tattoo and the brands. so that if that ever happens, you can identify who that animal is. The tag is just another semi-permanent form of identification, a little bit easier to read from far out on the field than the tattoo. But again, what we rely on for registration purposes is the tattoo itself or brand. Then we've got sex of the animal. If you have a male that has since been castrated, you can put them in as a steer from the get-go. If not, or you haven't gotten to that point and you're not sure if you're going to be retaining them or not, we've got male, female, or steer. Next required field is horned polled status. So is this animal polled? Does it have scurs? Which scurs is it's detached from the skull, but not full-on horned. Usually your full bloods, you'll see horned. Anything that has some sort of non-Wagyu in the pedigree, maybe the other two. Typically what we see is horned or polled. Next would be coat color. So if we have a cross, any of these colors can be picked, but if you have a full blood or purebred, it would be black or red. So what hide color does your animal have? Weight is not required. This would be for birth weight. If you have it, put it in. If you do not, leave it blank, because that's going to go into EPD information, so please don't guess. We like to have accurate data inputted here, so if you don't have it, just don't report it. Calving ease. Did you go out there and there was a calf, you didn't have to do anything? Did you guys have to intervene, do pulls, or did you have to do any type of surgery to get that calf out? Wagyu typically known for calving ease, so most of the time we see this, unassisted, unobserved. The next required field is twin code. Was this a single birth or was this a twin? If you have twins, you do need to put what the other animal was. So this particular example is a male, but if it was a twin to a male calf, you'll put twin to bull. If it was a twin to a female, you put twin to heifer. Calf vigor, was it observed? If not, leave it blank. Was the calf up or did it need assistance? Contemporary group, if the dams were managed in certain ways, you can assign a numerical value here. If not, you can leave it blank. For the name, it's going to require formatting that starts with your herd letters, and it's going to end with what you put in the tattoo field. So if we go back over here, the tattoo here is 101M. This would be the minimum name required for your animal. If you have a name, an official name that you want for this animal, you can put it in between these two fields. So again, starts with herd prefix, end with tattoo. I believe our current rules, the max is 32 characters, including spaces, your herd prefixes, and your tattoo numbers with your letter codes. Next would be EID. So if you have those little serial buttons, like 840 tags, things like that have those numbers, you can put those numbers here. If you have a barcode at this point when you're recording the calf, you can put it here. If not, you can leave this blank. So again, if you've taken a sample and you have that ready, you have that TSU vial that has that barcode printed on the side, or you have that blood card with that barcode printed on the card. Hair, the lab typically does not recommend that sample type until the calves are 6 months or older because the follicles are very tiny. If you do need to do hair, and that's the only thing that you can do, a good sample normally is 20 to 30 hair follicles. If you have an animal that is very young and we can't get any other sample type, or if you have an animal that has very fine hair, you're looking 60 plus. And you're going to need to pull that from the root of the tail, because that's going to be where the hair follicle is the largest, and they won't test the strand, they'll just test that little follicle that's at the end of the strand. So just when you pull that sample, if you can see the follicle, great. If you can't see it, the sample might be rejected from the lab because they can't process it, can't extract anything from it. Status, what is this calf's current status? If it's active, it's running around, it's alive and well, leave it as active. You can report calves that are no longer around and pick a different status. They died pre-weaning, either due to health, injury, was a stillborn. You can put that here, and it will automatically move your animal to the legacy. Once it's recorded, it'll move it to that inactive status. Season, that will auto-fill for you. That's based on the birth date that you put in further, or a little bit before on the table. First 3 months, second 3 months, third 3 months, and so on in the year. If you utilize our premise pasture feature in Digital Beef, you can create pastures and track where these ones are at. If you do not do that, it just has a default pasture. But if you do have a particular pasture that you're using that management system, you can select the specific pasture that animal was born in. For AI or pasture exposure animals, there's this breeding column here where you can put start and end dates. Again, they're not required, but if you have them, the more information you can have associated with that animal's record. For embryo transfer calves, so you have a donor dam, AI sire, recipient dam carries that calf. When that's born, it's going to ask you what is the flush date and transfer date. Those are required fields for ET calves. If you don't have that information, please reach out to the office. We'll see what we can find out for you. For ET calves as well, recipient dam, it's looking for a registration number in this field. So if it is a Hereford, a Holstein, something that's not Wagyu, and you have not created a commercial animal record to represent that dam, leave it blank. It's not required. So once you've gone through the form, the next step would be to validate the information that you put. It's going to read everything that you've put in so far and check to see if there are any errors. Some of the ones that you might see most commonly is maybe we made a typo in the tattoo and put the wrong letter. It'll say, hey, you need the correct year letter code. If you forgot to put the tattoo at the end of the name, further on in the form, it will throw that error. If you have to come back to this because you need to go find some records to pull some information if you don't have that handy, validate before you leave. Because what's going to happen if we don't do that, the form's not going to recognize that you've entered anything, and it will be blank the next time you go in. If you validate, the next time you sign in, there's this incomplete work tab right here, and it tells you you started this birth queue on this date. If you click that hyperlink right there, it brings you right back to the form where you left off. If you get errors, if you have to come back and complete it later, fill out the rest of the form and validate again to see if those errors resolve. If you have animals that are eligible to commit to the registry to create unregistered animal records, you are going to get this button, Commit to Registry. When we click that, it'll give you a summary of the information that you've entered, but then also assign an unregistered animal record number for your calf. If you go to View under My Account, back to your main page and hit Herd, select All, that calf should now be in your herd. So the next step, once you've recorded the animal, once you get your sample, fill out that DNA order form. Again, the main general profile page is the main hub that you can initiate a lot of different processes on the same page. So next to each animal in your herd list, you do have some gray buttons listed. You can hit View to bring up that specific animal's detail screen that will have more information about that one animal. Edit. There are some fields you guys can edit on your side and some that are staff only because some of them affect lab records and registration. But that will bring you to the edit screen. If you have an animal that's already registered, you will have a transfer option here. If they're still unregistered, it is blank. That's not available until the registration is finalized. Dispose will be how to update status. If you have registered animals, you can flag them for sale to show in the marketplace feature in Digital Beef. If they're not registered, it's not available. This is the one we're looking at right now, though, the DNA request. If I were to click this for this animal, it changes to queued. And then I'll go to that left-hand menu and click Herd Management, DNA. Anything I've queued on that main page or anything I started manually at some point will be living in this DNA order form. So that calf that I just queued on the main page is this one on the bottom right here. So it autofills their ID information. Because I had a barcode when I recorded the calf, it autofilled the barcode information that I put in there. This is his U number. He's a bull resulting from AI. This is his name. Make sure that's the right calf you're turning the sample for. The These are the parents that I put down. And then on the right-hand side, you have a bunch of boxes that you can select to pick what testing you want. For right now, we're just going to do the one we queued up. But we'll leave this one. So what we'll do next as far as completing the form, why are you testing? Is this additional testing where we want to get some extra standalone tests like STR markers or CL16 that we didn't get through additional testing? Is this something that we need to retest because we had an inconclusive original test and we had to turn in a new sample? If you're turning it in for parent verification purposes, but are not sure if you want to finalize registration, go ahead and just put registration, that's okay. If you have a barcode or if you don't have a barcode, it would be blank if you queue up that animal where you'd have to type in that barcode number and make sure you hit the save that pops up to the right. Next would be type of sample. Are you turning in a TSU vial, which the lab calls all flex tags? Are you turning in a blood card? Are you turning in a hair card? For your AI bowls, are you turning in a semen straw? The lab will charge an atypical sample processing fee for this sample type, just so you're aware. If you have an animal that's out in the pasture and you have a cover bowl that's out with the dam, you can put, if it's a registered Wagyu that has DNA, you can put that alternate sire's registration number here. Or if you may have used a couple straws, you can put that there. If you have any other notes that you want us to know about a specific situation about the animal, I have 10 bulls out in the pasture. I can only list one alternate sire in the box. I'm going to give you the other 9 alternates. You can type that in the notes section, but again, just make sure you hit save to the right once you're done typing, or else those notes will not come through to us at the office. With the testing options, we do have options 1, 2, and 3. These are genomic bundle options where you can get a group of tests at a discounted price for the lab. So this is kind of what Martha was touching on a little bit before. If you select one of these options, it will update your form to show the price of that bundle. Global Wagyu Bundle Panel Option 1 will include your 100K SNP parentage. That's the minimum requirement for parent verification for registration. It'll also include 3 blood disorder recessives, B3, CHS, F11, and then weak calf syndrome, also called IRS testing. It'll test if your animal is a free or carrier affected. Previously, this was $53. It's now dropped to $40. If you select the meat panel, that is going to be your 100K SNP parentage and your SCD fat and tenderness testing. So does your animal have 2, I'm sorry if I mispronounce it for those that know how to pronounce it, alanine and valine fatty acid compositions? It'll test for that, and then your animal's genetic potential for tenderness on a scale of 1 to 10. That bundle is now $49. Used to be $90. A lot of people who know that they want to retain animals for their breeding stock may get the Wagyu Panel Option 3. That's going to include your parent verification test, SCD fat and tenderness, those 3 blood disorder recessives and IRS, and also CL16, which is a kidney disorder recessive. Used to be $142, is now $61. If you're not sure, if you want all the extra testing, if you just want to parent verify the animal, register the animal, and maybe come back later and get some recessives as an additional result, you can select, there's the additional test options over here. You can select the 100K SNP parentage. Again, this one was 44, now it's dropped to 35. We have other testing as well. If you have an animal that potentially might be, that is polled, if you want to test to see if your animal is heterozygous polled or homozygous polled, this test will tell you. We have coat color. So if you have 2 black-hided parents and the calf comes out red, that'll kind of tell you what kind of recessives for coat color that animal may have or the parents may have if you test the parents. We've got bovine viral diarrhea. With this test, it cannot be ordered as a sample pull on a TSU vial type. The lab has two separate areas in the lab. They have vet diagnostics and then just the regular one that does a lot of the genomic testing. It has to go through vet diagnostics first before it goes to the other lab. It cannot go back for biosecurity reasons. And they also add certain reagents for the genomics testing, which will affect that BVD testing as a sample pull. So it has to be done through the initial testing if that's something that you want to do. CL16, again, that's a kidney disorder. PMEL, coat color dilution. This has to be ordered. You would need to have either option 1, 2, or 3, or the standalone 100K SNP parentage to order that as an additional test add-on. Same thing with BreedSeek as well. And the reason that that change happened is that it saves you $23 to do it that way. They used to have a PMEL option, standalone, and a BreedSeek standalone. But again, passing savings on to you, it is more cost effective for you guys to order it with on the chip versus the standalone. STR markers, those are the older parentage markers used before 2012. We do still have some sires and dams out there that are very old that we cannot get updated markers on, where we might have to get those old marker styles on the calf to complete verification. SNP markers, if you have something that lost a tag and the tattoo is illegible, you can turn in a sample on the mystery animal and order SNP markers, and we can use it for overlay to try and confirm identity to something already in your herd. And then there's also so BreedSeek will test for approximate Wagyu content of an animal. So if we can't find parents on your animal, we don't know what this animal is, was it a result of a coverable, get into a recip, things like that. That will give us a little bit more information to determine what that animal is. It cannot be used in lieu of parent verification requirements for registration though. And then the last test is that weak calf syndrome, just the standalone testing here. So with this calf, we're just going to do the minimum requirement for registration, that 100K SNP parentage. If you have something that's been tested at one point and you want to go back and do those standalone tests on an older animal that does not have 100K on file, you can do what they call a sample pull, queue it up for testing. When you get into this order form, you're going to have this little box that says pull sample. As long as the lab has enough sample remaining from that original sample, they'll just extract more and run it through the processes. If they don't, we'll let you know, hey, a new sample is required. Once you're done filling out your DNA order form, you'll need to select where are you sending your samples. You can send them to the AWA office, and what we'll do when we get your samples, we make sure that the barcodes match what's in your form to what we received. We'll visually inspect your samples. Is there tattoo ink in your TSU? Is there lots of dirt or fecal material on your hair cards? Does your blood card look kind of moldy? That's the stuff that we kind of look at, and then we'll let you know, hey, we are noticing this. There is a chance it might fail at the lab. Do you want to proceed? Or would you like to get a new sample and submit a fresh one instead? If a sample fails at the lab and you turn in a new sample, you are charged the testing fees for that second sample again. So that's why we offer that service, to look at them and give you the option. Do you want to keep moving forward with this if the chance that it might not work, or would you like to get a new sample? And just we'll try and minimize that from happening again with the new sample. The other option is to send it directly to the lab. If you do select this option, you will need to wait for a copy of the order form from us to send to you to include with your samples, because if it's not placed at the lab and they get your samples, they go on hold. Sometimes they don't know who the samples are from if it's not labeled clearly. If it's in their system, it speeds up the sample reception and it goes right onto the conveyor belt through the testing process at that point. If we don't have that and they don't get a response within a certain time frame, they go into storage and they will charge sample pull fees at that point to get them out of storage. Before you mail in your samples to the AW office, you will need to print out your sample submission form. That is going to be a summary of what you have here in this form. It'll be a PDF version, list your animal, the testing you selected, list your parent information. It gives me your member number and account name so we know who these samples are for. After you print that out or save it, you'll lock your request. Once you do that, it sends us an email notification at the office that we have some samples incoming for you. But then also, if you go back to your main account, you now have your work order for your testing available to pay right at that time. Once your samples finish testing at the lab, you'll get an email notification from us saying, hey, your samples are done. If there's any conflicts where they don't match up to parents, we'll let you know at that time. But to view your results, you'll hit the View button next to the animal that was tested. And there's a DNA tab in the detail screen here that will list all testing. So this one just has the parentage markers, but if you have recessive testing, there will be a second table beneath that will list F for free, C for carrier, or A for affected. Again, your SCD will be listed as AA, VA, or VV, and then your tenderness on a scale of 1 to 10. If you have something that comes back that parent verifies to the 2 parents that you put down, again, when we upload those results and let you know, hey, your testing's done, that register button will become available at that time. So this example up here will have that new button here. This calf, because DNA is not done, or there's something that doesn't fulfill requirements, that will not be available. But for any calves that do, it will be there. And all you need to do if you want to finalize it is hit that register button. Again, if you refresh your screen, my balance is updated again. So now I can go ahead and go to the account and do my, pay for my registration at that point. Those go into a queue that Heather works through every day. She will make sure all the formatting and everything looks correct on what will be the final certificate. Once it's finalized, again, she'll reach out to you and let you know that you can log in to print that final registration certificate. To do that, on the detail screen of that one animal, there's this View Certificate button right here that you can click to pull up that registration certificate. So if you've sold an animal as a breeding animal, the next step would be transfers. Again, all eligible animals for transfer will have that button here. If you click that, that will change to queued, and you'll go to herd management, transfer animals, and it will have the animal in that form for you already by queuing it on the main page. What you'll do here is you'll enter the buyer information or the buyer member number if they're not, buyer member number if they are a member. It will prompt you to enter their address and contact information if they are not. How much of the animal are you transferring? Are you retaining any ownership? 100% means they are getting the whole ownership of the animal, not the price. We don't need pricing, it's just the percentage. So if you are retaining ownership partially, you'll put like 50, 75, whatever your agreement is. And then the transfer date just needs to be in 2-digit month, day, 4-digit year format. If you're not sure if your buyer is a member, click the Find Buyer. It will prompt you to search by zip code. Find profiles. Is this the person that you had? If not, click Enter Buyer Information. We will make a non-member account for them and issue out that new hard copy of the certificate once that transfer has been processed. If you have an email, we can most definitely email that certificate to them as well. And hit Save Buyer Information to transfer. Just make sure that the information that you put in looks correct. Validate the information. Again, if this looks correct, if it doesn't, unlock it, and we can try and see if maybe the wrong member number got put in or there's a typo. But once you're done and everything's correct, hit Flag as complete. Again, that will send us a notification that there's a transfer ready for processing, and it's already invoiced your account for that transfer as well. I think it tacked it on to this one that was here. But that balance increased to include the transfer fee. I did have a question that came in. What if you sold an animal as commercial? What do you do then? You do not fill out that transfer form because that will give that registration. It will be processed and then put into the name of the buyer. If you sold an animal without papers, what you'll do is update the status of the animal, which is with this Dispose button, and then we'll go to the next respective menu to finish it out. So if I sold this animal, I'll hit Dispose. go to herd management, and then update status. Again, my animal's already in that form, and I just need to select the most appropriate new status. So I can say, cow moved to commercial herd. We have a few other ones for calf or bull specific. And then that way, if I make that update, that animal is now going to be listed under the legacy tab as an inactive animal. You can see some of my other ones that I did this with. But then that registration, you are still listed as the current owner of that animal. It does not get transferred into the name of the buyer. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of depends. So if you're recording offspring, then that may be the first owner rule that we talked about. I know we had kind of a similar situation that we worked with you. So if you have an animal where you're selling it without papers and you've recorded it in your herd, that buyer cannot register that animal because you've already recorded it. If you've sold a commercial animal and allowing them to register offspring, yes, they will get that error and they'll just need to contact us at that point.
You guys must like to be contacted.
We do. Yeah. We only have a couple more minutes, but that's kind of the most commonly used processes. Again, if I did not answer your question for those that filled out the survey, come meet with me at the registration desk, or call me at the office. Yes, Paul?
Yeah, hey. I've been using the Allflex for a number of years, and this year I had an issue where half of my came back incomplete with CL16. And I was wondering what might be causing that, because I've never had an issue before, and to have that many come back as a failed. It says NR, I guess that's not recorded.
No results, yes.
No results,
yeah.
Okay.
So in that case, with CL16, that is a standalone test. So if you order the option 3 panel, it is included with that, where the lab will extract sample and run it on the 100K chip for the 100K testing, but they need to extract more sample to run the CL16 because that is not on the chip. So it could be a number of things. Again, sometimes we don't know, but to have that many, we would probably reach out to the lab to see if they can give us any more information. There are some tests that are a little bit more sensitive to the amount of DNA present in that specific sample. Usually with a failed sample, the lab will automatically draw more and rerun it just to make sure it's not a quality control issue. But if it fails the second time, that's when they say, hey, this has failed. If we extract more, it's probably not going to produce a third result.
Okay, I just found it really strange. I
Yes,
never had a fail before, and
yeah,
now I had 4 in 1 year.
Usually we don't see a large quantity of things fail for the same thing in one order. But again, there's some older platforms like CL16, STR, that they're a little bit more sensitive to the amount of DNA. So it could be, with the TSU vials, maybe not as much, but like with hair cards, there may not be sufficient DNA present in some of those sample types that we would probably retest again, and if we fail again, then we'll kind of troubleshoot at that point and maybe try a different sample type.
Okay.
But if you run into that, contact the office. We'll see if we can get any more information. Again, they can't always tell us why, but they can see, most definitely check stuff on their end, make sure it's not something with them.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but I think that's all the time we have. So again, if I did not get to your questions, or if you have more questions we've not talked before, visit with me at the desk or sign up for the one-on-one sessions for tomorrow afternoon and Saturday morning, or again, call me at the office on Monday. All right, thank you, everyone.